Papiano from Your Instructional Designer, and I am here today with Dan Keckan. Dan, could you tell me a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Hi, Nicole. I am in charge of Cinecraft Productions. So I'm the CEO of Cinecraft Productions, a custom learning company in Cleveland, Ohio, that brings the learner as close to the skill or behaviors to be learned as possible. So we do that with video, e-learning, instructor-led training, blended learning, simulations, games, AR, VR.
Yeah, and you have a pretty solid team there. I've kind of ascertained. How many people do you have over
We have about 25, and then a number of freelancers from all over the country. So, and they're all freelancers we've worked with for years, instructional designers, occasionally a developer or an animator, 3D artist. Occasionally we'll work with folks outside of the company for other things, but primarily some of our instructional designers. We have about 8 to 10 outside of Cinecraft that we use on a regular basis.
That is definitely quite a team. I mean, as a freelancer, it seems like a lot of people. How did you get, into this space? To work with
nepotism. I graduated from I graduated from college. Didn't know what I wanted to do, and came and joined the oldest video production house in the country that just happened to be owned by my family, and sold training videos, mostly primarily in Cleveland, Ohio. And then there was kind of a ceiling on our growth. And at the same time, we were doing some computer-based training as well. So we were taking those videos and making simulations out of them for nursing training, to satisfy OSHA standards. And that kind of snowballed with our authorware expertise, in the late 90s. And that snowballed into what you know of today as e-learning. So, and then what we are today is a custom learning company that doesn't discriminate from different modalities. It's just based on the learner and the skill or behaviors to be learned. So we identify those and slot them in. So so I got involved from a standpoint that my family wanted me to work for the business, and so I kind of took it, and from a Cleveland brand that everybody knew and respected to a more national brand that can help large organizations, medium-sized organizations train better. So
I know that you're joking about the nepotism, or I'm sure you've earned your keep somehow. But is there something because you could have said no, right? You could have said, "I don't want to do this." Is there something that's drawn you to this learning space?
Well, we weren't necessarily a learning company. We were delivering learning videos, but to organizations, but we were also delivering marketing videos, communication videos, and it was the learning space that drew me because of the substance behind it. A lot of marketing communications type stuff that we would do or that others do doesn't have a lot of substance. I've never been a big fan of the bright, shiny object. I'm more along the lines of what's behind it, and does it have meat, and can it change behavior or upskill employees? And so that drew me to it. So I started taking some classes in instructional design through Langevin and some other folks, and then began doing and then going to conferences as well, meeting people in the industry, and just learning over, it's been 22 years now. And so I have grown to really try to understand what it takes to grow and help an employee perform better. And so that has been my journey, and it all along the way, marketing communications didn't thrill me. training did, and improving and having something that had meat, that had a bottom line to it that we could measure at the end, was something that I've always been interested in.
That's really interesting, especially with like the rise of edutainment and things like that. That you're saying you like the idea of something measurable. I think is really important. And I know Cinecraft has a really good reputation within the industry. So clearly, you're doing something right.
I hope so, and we're trying. We're trying. We have, um, you know, some core values that we've established for the organization, and we have 7 better learning principles that we really look at all of our work and try to judge how we're doing along the way, to make sure that it's authentic, that it's fun, that it's engaging, um, accessible, and so on. So we do these things because um, our clients can do a lot of their own training. They have internal instructional design departments. So why would they hire us? Number one, they hire us because we're an extension of their group, and when they don't have the bandwidth. And then secondly, um, each of our folks has unique skill sets. They went to school for graphic design, or they went to school for instructional design, or they went to school for development or video production, and so they bring an extra level of production value to your course, and so that's primarily what makes companies work with us, and that we have an instructional design philosophy, and it's not just about dumping information in the learner's laps. It's about bringing them as close to the skill or behavior to be learned as possible. And you'll hear me say that all the time. If I can get them to do it, whatever it is, whatever task or behavior, in it live in person, in a role play, or actually operate the machinery, that's the best way to learn. So if I can, if for whatever reason we need to create a risk-free environment to save cost, or not, to avoid embarrassment, that's when we come in. We create simulations, games, something that learners can take back to the job and do on day one.
So cool. So you're coming from like, the top of the chain perspective, and I think that's something unique that I haven't had a ton of people on this little series, have that perspective yet. And so is there something that you would tell folks who are thinking about joining the learning industry, maybe who would like to rise to that level of CEO, or someone who's sort of a leader in the L&D or learning space, however you want to call it? Is there something you would tell them, some advice you would give them?
You mean somebody's trying to start their own company, or?
Yeah, I think if somebody wants to be the next CEO of a learning company, what kind of advice would you give them? Because we don't get to hear that very often.
Well, primarily learn your niche, learn your craft and learn your niche. People talk about how important technology is, and that they're great at AR, VR, or they're great at video production, or they're great at programming, or they're great at gamification. But it all boils down to the foundation of any learning project, and that's instructional design. So what you want that learner to do, and the learning objectives that satisfy your business outcome, is the most important thing. And so many organizations in the space lose that sight. They think their differentiation is the fact that they can do AR, VR, or video, or whatever. If we had hung on to that as being our strength, our only strength is that we're the video company in the e-learning industry, or the learning solution business, or content development, whatever you want to call our industry. If we hung on to that, we would never grow. Video is only as good as the script that's written behind it. And so that's where the substance comes in. And so everything we do comes from that foundation, and instructional design is the most important piece of the puzzle. Without it, you won't survive, or you'll just never grow. So if I was to give one bit of advice, as to, or share with you what I feel is our biggest success is, and why we are where we're at and where we're going, is because of the fact our focus on instructional design.
Interesting. So I heard two things though, because you're talking about instructional design. And I think that's really cool because I do think, I've personally even worked with training companies that get a little stuck on like, we're a course company, like a content company, but they're not thinking about the behavior change or the principles. And so I really appreciate that. But I also hear you saying like, we need to be evolving and thinking about what comes next. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, we're always looking at what's next. The instructional design and the way people learn doesn't change. It never has and it never will. And maybe somebody out there can debate me on it, but my parents learned in school the same way my kids are learning today. They've changed around the how you solve math problems, but I was doing my daughter's math, first grade math the other day, and I'm like, just carry the one. I mean, I don't know if you've seen first grade math,
Oh
but you
yeah.
don't carry the one anymore. They
No, they have a
separate.
whole different framework.
Yeah,
The
they break it down,
Common Core
and
math.
oh, but no matter what, um, you learn by doing. My daughter's learning by doing her homework, and the instructor tells her what to do, and her teacher tells her what to do, and she does it. People learn the same way, and so what technology is out there that can make our job easier? So we're always looking at new development tools. But we're also practical about it. This whole AR VR space isn't ready yet, in my opinion. It took years for, and I don't even think corporations are there yet. E-learning is done on PCs primarily, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but every course is primarily mobile friendly, because it's really easy to develop a course in Storyline or Captivate, make it HTML5, and make it ready for a mobile environment. So most courses are mobile ready, but no company, or the majority of companies out there, are not arming people for training with their own iPad and iPhone.
Right.
It's just not happening. Um, some companies arm their salespeople with iPads for presentations, and so there is some mobile learning going on. They can use their own phone, but there's always wage and hour issues, and in retail environments, so you have to be careful. So the mobile learning space, even though your phone is within 6 feet of you 24 hours a day, isn't necessarily the space people learn in. They're still learning in a corporate environment on a PC. And so now we've got this new tool that isn't 6 feet from you 24 hours a day, that you have to put over your head, is uncomfortable, and it's really cool. I mean, if you've ever done it, everybody
Oh
agrees
yeah.
it's cool. It's
Yeah.
it's as close to real life as possible. It's authentic. It hits all the marks, but it's just not convenient. It's not cheap either. The cheapest ones out there for $300-400 now. So no company's out there spending lots of money on thousands of devices. And when they hire somebody like Cinecraft, they're doing it to train mass amounts of people, mostly, unless there's a sales or new product launch where they are training small amounts of people with a high ticket item to get an increase of revenue. So there's so this AR VR space hasn't really isn't ready to take off, in my opinion, and unless that device becomes a part of our uh, daily operations, like a PC has. I don't know if it ever will. Doesn't mean it doesn't have a space, and it's not cool, and it's not effective. It means that it's not convenient, and so sometimes I want to just walk away from that conversation.
No, it makes total sense, and I really appreciate that perspective, and I'm going to say I kind of am on board, and that'll probably rock a few votes, but that's okay. I'm waiting for the holograms. I feel like when we start having holograms and you can just walk
That'd
around
be
your
cool.
office and it turns into something, then people will be ready for that kind of
I'm
immersion.
ready for nanotechnology. So implanting little nano chips into your brain that downloads information.
I'm not ready for that.
It's not far off.
You can be
It's
first
not
to
far off.
test it. I know. That's the scary part. Well, I feel like I got so much out of this conversation today, Dan, and I'm sure the people watching from home did as well, or their offices, wherever you may be. And so I really just want to appreciate, all of the great advice you've given, and thank you for your time.
Sure. Thank you for having me, Nicole.
Of course.
And if anybody ever has any interest in from your audience in doing putting their portfolio in my inbox to look at, I would love to look at other instructional designers' work, and hopefully we can work together as I have with you, Nicole. So.
Awesome. Yes, I will keep that in mind. And if you are interested in learning more about Cinecraft and Dan and what he does, you can read the description box below where there's some great links to the things he is doing. And for now, we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Nicole. Bye-bye.